Hey everybody, Eric Walkuski from JoBlo.com here, and I am in the esteemed company of Matt Reeves, Andy Serkis, Dylan Clark. They are here at New York Comic Con with War for the Planet of the Apes. You guys are about an hour away, I think, from showing the very first footage to anybody on Earth outside of your crew. How are the nerves doing right now?
You know what? I am incredibly excited. I think we're really, you do a thing when you really care about something, and this movie has been so special for us. You feel like you have a secret, and you can't wait to share the secret. And so we're really excited, I think, to show it to everybody, and at the same time, we're absolutely horrified. This is like, it's like, oh my God.
How do you feel, Andy? I mean, this is the first time anyone's going to get a look at this, and everybody loved Dawn of the Planet of the Apes.
Same as Matt. It's a really thrilling moment. It is incredibly nerve-wracking, but I've seen the clips that Matt's been putting together with Dylan, and I think people are going to be really excited about not just seeing seeing the final renders, but seeing how it's all put together, because that's a big part of this.
Well, that's the idea, is that we're bringing the audience into our process, so they get to see actually Andy act in these scenes with Matt direction, not just the rendered, beautifully done ape shots from Weta, but the thing that goes into it, which is a lot of work and a lot of great acting. So we've always wanted to showcase Andy in this way, and we finally get to do it.
I mean, I don't think it's ever been done like this, right? We have behind-the-scenes stuff where you see a shot in the thing, but we've never shown a continuous, unfinished scene that had, like, 1 minute it's Andy, the next minute there's some animation, the next minute you're seeing, like, it's, yes, we've never done that. So that part is really cool. We're really excited about that.
That's the terrifying part,
because
which is,
people are like, wait, this is weird.
People
you
could
guys
go,
know what you're doing?
We think it's cool, but they may think, well, just give us the finished product, man.
Is this what the movie looks like? Is it just going to be...
Oh, so this time they were just going to go with Andy and some of it, right? Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah.
I mean, the interesting thing will be if and hopefully they will, kind of dramatically they just follow the scene and kind of don't even think about it, and then just think, hold on a minute, that was a finished ape, that's an actor, and that's a kind of half animated thing, and yet I feel like I've just watched a scene. That'll be the
My gut is, because now I've watched you guys do this for so many years of my life, but that when you see Andy in performance act a certain way, and then the very next shot is a rendered ape, that transition, cool. That's the thing, which is, the technology is amazing, and Weta's incredible, but without Andy's acting and without Matt's direction, there isn't this level of detail to these photoreal apes, and that's what we want to showcase here.
Now, if we could get into the story a little bit, I mean, how long after Dawn does it take place, and what are some of the new conflicts that Caesar's dealing with?
Well, it's 2 years after the end of Dawn, and at the end of Dawn, you know that peace is over, and that what's left of the U.S. Army is coming down, and you know that basically because Koba has started the war against the humans, that the humans, when they get down here, they're not going to show any mercy. So we come smash into the war 2 years in. Caesar and the apes have been trying to fight off this human army, and they've retreated to the woods, and it's been a brutal, brutal process. And the story, the last story left us in a place where Caesar is burdened with the guilt of feeling that, first of all, that he had to kill one of his brothers in killing Koba, and also that as he's entering this story, he's thinking, how was I blind? Why couldn't I see that he wouldn't be able to coexist with the humans? And if I had seen that, maybe I could have prevented this war, and maybe in that way, it is my fault, is what he's thinking. And the story is about how events in fighting the humans become so extreme that he starts to understand where Koba is coming from. And so the war is not just between humans and apes, it's also a war for Caesar's soul.
Yeah. And what can you add to that? I mean, he had that burden placed upon his shoulders at the end of the last one, where he's like, the realization in that last great shot where he's like, this is my life now. How is this movie kind of escalating the challenges he faces?
I mean, he is haunted. He's incredibly haunted by what has happened, where we leave off in Dawn. And as the ape loss begins to grow throughout this movie, and as the conflict rages, and as he realizes that he feels his tolerance lowering and dropping. I mean, this is an ape who has had a very strong moral centre and also has been brought up with human beings and loved human beings and been loved. So and that begins to bleed away from him, and his empathy, which is kind of what has held him together, as his moral centre is eroding kind of to a very dark place throughout the course of this movie, and it was very it was an incredibly emotionally and psychologically challenging journey actually shooting it as a result.
I'm curious about the villain of the piece, because the last one had Gary Oldman in a great, and not necessarily a villain, but a conflicted villain. How do you up the ante with the Colonel in this one?
Well, it's interesting because we don't think of any characters in the film as being villains,
I guess
right?
the antagonist.
Yeah, the antagonist. And the reason being that we think it's important to approach all of the characters with understanding. And, you know, Gary was definitely a strong antagonist in the last film, and probably the one even more directly that Caesar had to grapple with was his relationship with Koba, who was incredibly damaged. And when you understood, and the same thing with Gary, when you understood what he had lost, what he's been through, and the idea of what formed Koba, the idea that he could never imagine living side by side with who had essentially been his torturers, his captors. And in this story, Woody, who is the antagonist of this story, if you imagine the circumstances, they're so extreme. So he's created by extreme circumstances, and so he's driven to extreme action. And in that way, it really is about human nature and how when you're pushed to extremes, how it can drive you to extremes. And yet the film really strives to never lose understanding of him. And in fact, part of the movie, because it's very much a Caesar point of view movie, is the journey to discovering why this guy is so extreme. And they actually come to an understanding in a way, and yet it still pits them directly against each other.
I'm curious about the motion capture, because, I mean, with Dawn, it seemed like, how can it possibly get better than that? And it's been about 2 years now. What can you say about the advancements of that technology?
Well, in terms of the technology, the filming technology as such, you know, it's got more streamlined. It's very robust. We were shooting in very tough, you know, in extremes environments, and it all stood up to it pretty well. In terms of, you know, the cameras are a lot more lightweight, mounted on the head cams, etc., on the helmets and so on. But actually, the software also and what Weta are doing in post is equally incredible, because the renders now, the simulation for fur and all of that kind of stuff is only enhancing the actors' performances to a great degree, and the reality of the you know, the actors' choices and in just those very subtle beats that everyone's creating as apes and the interpolation of that onto the physiognomy of the ape characters is just, you know, it just keeps getting better with each iteration.
Was it easier for you this time around, having already done one, as opposed to when you entered Dawn, which, you know, I gotta assume was a pretty daunting task?
It was terrifying to make Dawn, because I came into it loving Rise, loving Planet of the Apes, feeling like I had this connection with Caesar that I didn't understand, but having no clue as to how it happened. And so I spent a lot of time studying. I had a VFX producer take me through and show me all the shots of Andy and all the shots of Caesar, and then it clicked very quickly, because as soon as you see that, you realize, oh, the trick here is that Weta's amazing. They make these incredible photoreal apes, but the performance is that amazing guy, Andy. And I was so affected. In fact, I thought that he was doing some stuff that they hadn't even fully got. I was like, wow, he's so good. They go, I know, he's so good. And so that actually made it easier for me to understand that at least the process was going to be me dealing with the actors. But the physical challenge of it, I got pneumonia. It was crazy. But on this one, I would say having been through it before made it easier in that we knew what to expect, although there were certain moments where we were looking going, oh my God, I know what to expect, and this is not going to be good.
By the way, as the producer of this thing, what's interesting from a psychological place, these movies are so hard to make, and they're so hard on the people, director and actor most. Knowing what's ahead of you is often more daunting. So there was a benefit to Matt being new to this thing, which was, you know, I would just say, go figure it out. It'll be exciting. No, this is new. Like he's so intelligent, and he just dives in, and he did, and it was great. And then it was, oh my God, I can't believe I spent this long finishing this movie. we're going to do another one? What? How are we going to do that? So, and also,
We had 4 weeks off between the last movie and this one. I mean, essentially, yeah.
and because the story was so, he dove so far into the story and through the character, and we left the character off at this certain place. The goal was to take that character and go even further. So the ambition of War was much more action, much more dramatically impactful, more emotion, more characters, more humor, more locations. I mean, we go in the snow, we're on the beach, we're in the mountains, we're in the woods, we're in the water. I mean, we did everything to Andy and Matt, and so that ambition was there because he had some experience from the last movie, but also coming with that was this known thing. Oh God, be careful what you write for yourself to direct.
And real quick, last question. When you say beach, I think of Planet of the Apes. Are we inching ever closer to, of course we are, but like in your guys' point of view, are we going to get there at one point?
You know, I think the idea is to not get there too soon, because it's not so interesting to think about redoing that film. That's never been our intention. But the idea of re-entering this universe, knowing that way in the distance there's a different world, and how we get from here to there, and the giant epic saga that is the journey towards that, I mean, there is a lot to do between here and there. So I would describe it as inching, yes, inching.
Good. Well, we hope to see about 10 more. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
And good luck tonight.
Thank you.